so many, or charge so many for something, put a charge limit on, there's no sense in having the same sign every 10 feet. And then,
Campaign signs, there are signs that are attached to, electric poles, I mean, there's wind washers, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of businesses advertising.
and there are a lot of those too. I do want to pursue it, and we can do it, but we do need to restrict some of it, because it just gets too cluttered on our streets, it's not very, appealing for people to come into our, city and see it. And two, our city workers, when I've seen 4 workers pulling up signs and putting them back, it's unnecessary.
Oh, I agree, and we can pursue it, it's just not going, unfortunately, won't happen as quickly, and I mean, that's, one of the reasons we have legal counsel, so that we don't do anything that we regret later, so. I will be calling.
Pursue this, can we say political signs on it?
I do not think so. Mr. Stevens, did you hear that? Can you say political signs only?
No.
No, he says no. And I'm sure he. Content neutral, so in other words, you can't, and you get into a thing where you also, I mean, if you think about it, what it, and one of the things that were cited in here, you know, where you start, where you stop, and like, if a church advertises sunrise service with the sign, you know, you have to be very careful. Like he says, it has to be content neutral, either allow or don't allow things.
And then the signs can put an auction, courthouse.
Well, see, that's what you get into, like if there's a sign for an auction or a special event or something like that. But I will continue to, he will look into it some more and we'll come up with some ideas. So I think that'd be the best thing to do. And like I said, I have a copy of this if y'all would like to look at it afterwards, so we can make copies for you also. But,
I was gonna ask that question that Kenny asked, but what I understand there, no signage period.
well, it has to be content neutral, which means you can't pick and choose, and so that's the problem. You know, for us, to benefit us the way we want, we mainly want the election signs gone, but you can't pick and choose, unfortunately.
But it almost goes back to what the city grounds, their land to take care of versus private property. So we can't say nothing on private property.
But there again, we would have to say nothing. Like if we choose to, like, the toy run or the Irish celebration, if we choose to hang a banner for that, we're no longer neutral in our content. So we have to, it gets very complicated. Plus, we say it's city property, but the taxpayers own the city property. There is no city property, like what we would like to think, and that was brought up to me too. It is taxpayer property. So we have to be careful.
When you think about it, the election, what, every 4 years?
Yeah, the main one, well, every 2 years,
Every
but
2 years.
the big ones are every 4, yes.
And then the churches and some people, the yard sales, you know,
We just need to look at it some more before we, do something is what I believe we need to do, but we can still pursue it, and we'll pursue it if that's what y'all want to do, and I think the consensus is that y'all want to, so we will be looking at this. But,
You know, there is a complicating matter with this state highway coming through. Because that's state highway.
yeah, so they do it a little differently too, I think, so. Yes, I don't know if all y'all heard, but, you know, some of the property is state highway right away, so it's not really ours to determine as much, unfortunately or fortunately, one way or another. But, we will look at it some more. But, moving on, the liquor by the drink referendum will be on the November ballot, and so with that in mind, we will be, if it passes, we will be quickly looking at a ordinance for that. So that will, I'm in the process of, Gary Jacob from MTS is going to be helping us with that. On the planning commission meeting, they met on 9/28. I'm gonna let Ms. Betsy talk about this.
Okay. Can you all hear me through this? two things came before the planning commission. Jerome Fosnett wants to put a, RV trailer, big enough for him to live in up on Spring Street. The issue is, we'll have to go before, there has to be a planning, public hearing, and then the results will go before the board of zoning appeals because RV would be excluded. So anyway, they'll deal with that. The second issue was Mr. Garcia, and that's on McMillan Street, wants to put a new single wide trailer in there. The issues there, are that it is in 100-year flood zone and will have to be, looked at by, state surveyor to make sure that it's structured as how much he has to elevate it. And also there was a sewer line going to it, possibly, and he gave a locate that. Was that done? Is
They did look at that.
it gonna complicate?
No, it's far enough back, that will not be an issue. There will be an ad going up tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, the event tomorrow's paper. And so I think the meeting's will be on the 26th. I believe that's correct. Yes, 26th will be the board of zoning appeals.
Both of those need to have a public hearing and then go before the zoning appeal. And from zoning appeals, if it's approved, it will be a final vote here for the council.
Moving on to new business, we did have the bid opening. Angie has passed out the summary of bids. There was 4 people, with my understanding, that picked up packet. Unfortunately, only one turned in a packet or turned in a bid. And if you were given a list of streets too. I had this a second ago. There we go. So the list of streets, and this is approximately based on the bid pricing, because the way they break down the bid, this is what each street would cost on this list. It was bid with, and you'll see the total there, $454,483, so it's a little bit more than what the estimates were, or the estimate from the engineer, but there was 2 deductive alternatives, which, deductive 1 was, Midway Drive. It doesn't say that on your copy, but it was Midway Drive. And deductive alternative number 2 was Gray Street. So that's what those 2 are. But now we can deduct any street off this that we want. It's the way it's done, because of the way it will be done. We can deduct any street that you want. If you remember, I said at the work session, that we do have right at, we have $153,000 in the Maple Street. We have $267,000, $58,000 being a one-time thing that we could use for these streets. $100,000 is what we put in our budget, and then $109,000 is what we are getting from, rural development. So that would give us $267,000. So we also have as much as $153,000 in the Maple Street fund if we want to spend it all. I myself don't know that we need to spend all of it, but that's up to this board. I do think it might be good to keep some money in case you had something like when the street fell in on Spring Street or something like that, which we hope doesn't happen. But I mean, it would be good to have some money held back. That's up to y'all. But at this time, I mean, you know what the bid is, you have a copy of the streets, based on what the bid is, and if you took $50,000 out of Maple Street fund, you would have, right at $317,000 that we could put towards paying. If you take $100,000 out, you'd have $367,000. If you took $150,000, which once again, that's not what I would think we would need to do, but it's up to you, you'd have $417,000. Kind of going over the numbers quickly, but I mean, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I mean, I guess I would, at this time, I'd like to your thoughts on, do you want to pave everything, which is going to take, well, we don't have enough to pave everything. Because like I say, if you take 150,000, we only have 417,000. So we can't pave everything. So with that in mind, how much do you want to take from Maple Street? And then what do you feel, look, I think I asked y'all if you wanted to drive around. So what do you feel like, what could we get away with not paving this year? What would you really like to see?
I didn't see the great guy needs to pay. It's narrow, and there's an issue, is that a one-way street?
It is not.
It's probably, it's long, though, that's the problem.
I'm going to guess it doesn't receive a whole lot of traffic.
Traffic, no. The only spot I saw an issue with is there's a real low spot, and it looks like water is run over the road, because the culvert could, either the culvert may be plugged up, or it's too small, so.
When I drove it, that was my consensus too. The worst thing about it is that, and we do need to look at the culvert.
What about Franklin Lane? Is it usable? Or is it one of these-
It's usable. I mean, I don't know that it gets a lot of use. You know, I mean, I don't know if you look at, it would be right at $14,000 is the estimate to pay this. 13,987, so it's right at $14,000. So, any other thoughts? Anybody have any thoughts on, we have a comment on Gray Drive, Price Lane?
I'm trying to see relations on that. Yeah, Don's around, we took through it a couple of times.
There is a little gravel we need to sweep, I just like that, but as far as the pavement itself, it's very well surfaced.
Not anything issue with Great Drive, we took pictures of.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Midway Drive, since that was bid as a deduct? Now, this is the upper portion of Midway Drive, but since that was bid as a deduct, what are your thoughts on that?
It's places for the road is in cut. And it makes it rough. I do think it really needs that striping with it, where
Yes, now the striping we could do, because that was separate.
that's a dangerous intersection.
Right. And then there is one spot where it is crumbling a little bit, where we're gonna have to put some riprap in.
Yeah, sorry.
If you, okay, let me, give
Then
you
we
some,
cut back on what actually gets paid on it,
do it.
and decrease the amount of paving on this street, so
Just do a small, shorter section of Midway. I'm sure that could be done.
Does that, the Midway steel through there, is it still flood? When it's
Sometimes it does, yeah.
done?
But,
We're down so midway on it was, well,
it's where like the water line got cut across.
oh, down there to, on the hill, right there, we're down the curve, that side there, we're going up the hill.
where you're trying
So
to,
we fixed the repair water leak down there a few years back. The only way we just patch that one spot, but the rest of it, pretty smooth.
I'm sure we could do that.
That wherever it's from.
And fix that crumble spot.
We're gonna have to do that rip right down there on the side of it. Midway, of course, it's all the paint on it. It's not the ballpark of Gray Drive, it was pretty smooth, two spots.
And that would basically be from Al Hollis down, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Al Hollis where it was repaid before.
Mhm.
And we could maybe do that, where we just say we're gonna do from Al Hollis to there. But that would cut back quite a bit, because you're looking at 81,000. And of course, I've not measured it, but, I mean, we might be looking at from Al Hollis where we were gonna stop at, would probably be about about half of what, if I'm thinking wrong, without visually driving. And the math might help us out on that.
If that's on Gray Drive, about half of Midway, it'd be about 80,000-90,000 there on, and then you got Rice Lane, it'd be about 104,000.
If you're looking at this map, which is kind of hard, we don't have one, if you kind of look, you can see Out Hollow. If you go from there to Out Hollow, it would probably be less than half of Midway. If you look at that, I mean, based on the visual, it would be less than half, so that might be an idea. So that would cut your cost of doing Midway to about half. And if you did that, like you said, you're looking at, that would be about, if you leave off Gray Drive, do half of Midway, you're talking about $87,000 that you would be taking off your bid of $454.
Then leave all Price Lane on there, big package. Very limited use on that road.
Now,
I'm
it's
just
closer
always
to the 350 range.
I've always thought price lines just, driving.
My father's problem.
No one uses that. So, like in the old days when they had the wagons, they did. Sometimes with a shortcut. You have to got a car and another 150.
Plus, I think it's advantageous a lot of times, depending on traffic, which, I mean, it depends on the time of day. If you are on Walnut Street and coming out when school is getting out in the afternoon, I personally think you're better off going to the red light. That's my opinion, but certain times of the day, it's not bad, but certain times it is. Okay, if you took off, if you did half a Midway, took off Gray Drive and took off Price Lane, which y'all mentioned, you're looking at $353,000. And so if you did that, you could take about, it wouldn't even be 100,000 from the, Maple Street account, and you would have 367,000, and I just said it's 353, so you would have a little bit extra. So if you said up to 100,000, out of the Maple Street, and that would leave us $53,000 in there. If that's something you want to do, if there's some other thoughts, we can look at that too.
What about the south end? That's not that much when it's 5,000.
Which one?
South end. I didn't want to take a whole lot out of that Maple Street.
Well, that's true.
You never know how the weather's been, you might be there.
Yeah, bridge funds, or it's kind of like a safety net.
You need to watch. Which I definitely, I know that's our biggest expense, it is definitely needs it.
It
the
still
stock,
is.
it needs the rails, I know we've had several accidents.
Which the rail is not on your list here, but there is, and that's one of the, like, if you were to add all this up, it will not equal the total bid because there's $58,000 that's not written here for, the guardrail. And I apologize, I didn't think about that, but it's right at $58,000 for the guardrail that's fitted on the, so. In the, I'm sorry, it's $52,000 for the guardrail. In the pavement, there's a quantity of 12,408 linear feet of, line, painting the lines, and that's a cost, but that's only like $12,408, so that's not that much. And I think painting the lines would really help. And then there has been a lot of interest in the guardrail, so that is $52,000. But it's, those two things probably need to be in there and not deducted. But,
In Spring Street, it's.
so we talked about, Gray Drive, doing half of Midway Drive. And, talked about not doing Price Lane, and then someone has mentioned South Bend. Are there any other thoughts? If not, it'll be a mouthful of motion for whoever makes one. Because it would be the resolution, but with these details.
So how much are we up to?
Yeah. Okay, if you take off, South Bend, you're looking right at, I rounded a couple of the numbers, but it'd be right at around 300, just a hair over 348,000.
What is the pavilion parking lot?
It's the one down here, where, we have the Bessie Lincoln Park and the pavilion there. And it has had some, and I have had a complaint here recently too about some potholes, and it's had to have some work cut out on it, and it is, it's fairly rough.
Well, between it and City Hall, you don't really have to do them now. That's something that can be looked into 6 months down the road if you get everything else. You won't take care of your main highway more than your parking lot.
Well, that is true. Of course, we do, a lot of people do use the city workers use the City Hall parking lot more. We'll help the parking other people. But we have several people that do use the pavilion parking lot.
Yeah, but it's not a major necessity, it's like feel or road, you strike. You can always get back and do it 3 months in a row, 6 months. It's not really.
But one of the things, and which we didn't mention, but I think one of the things we wanted to address was some of the, there's a drainage issue over there that we were going to address at the time we repaved because it holds water back there. So that was another, when it rains, it'll hold water. That's another thing we wanted to look at when we repave.
The farmer's market, when it's going, they use it a lot.
They do. And of course, any events that we have, it gets used quite a bit. The other thing that would concern me about the pavilion parking lot is walking traffic. So if somebody trips or something, that's one thing that would concern me a little bit too, because there's more walking traffic there. So, but I mean, say it, whatever y'all would like to do. And with the deducts that were mentioned, or if that's what y'all want to do, we would be 348,000.
You said we had 267,000 available without touching our Maple Street.
Right, so you're right at, you're at $81,000 you take out of the Maple Street. And it might, it might be, and like I say, we said Midway, if you go from Alhalla, I allotted half, but it may not be quite that much, so you'd be about 80,000. Are there any other thoughts? If not, would someone want to make a motion?
Did we figure out that room?
Well, when I did those numbers, I did, because it was mentioned.
So you're looking at half of Midway, removing Price Lane, South Food,
A Gray Drive.
and Gray Drive. Okay, I'll make the motion. We deduct half of Midway, remove, Price Lane, South Food, and Gray Drive.
So on Midway, from where it was paved up to Al Hollow, is that what you'd like to do then?
Right in the field area.
So we have a motion, and just for clarity, we have a motion to accept this bid, removing, Price Lane, South Boone, Gray Drive, and doing Midway from where it was paved, I think it was last year, or the year before, I can't remember now. From where it was paved up to Al Hollow. We have that motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a motion on it, and we have a second. And like I say, we are doing roll call.
Alderman Mitchell,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Alderman Parchman,
Yes.
Alderman Warren,
Yes.
Alderman Gooden,
Yes.
Alderman Parsons.
Motion carries.
So we're gonna make sure that we get that good property before we start paying.
Yes, you're talking about on Midway?
Yeah.
Yes, I will talk to Philip about that tomorrow. And I guess with that motion, we are using the $267,000 plus what is needed from the maintenance retreat account to do the payment that we mentioned. All right, up next is ordinance number 627, which is an ordinance to amend Title 8 of the City of Erin Municipal Code. This is just to make sure that people understand, we are not changing the amount of the inspection fee. It has always been at 8% since the inception, but it has been requested that it be specifically listed in the ordinance for clarification's sake. So we are amending the ordinance to specifically list that. That is the maximum amount allowed by state law. Anyway, so, with that, that's all you can do. So if state law changes, then it might do something different, but that is what is allowed by law. So like I say, we are already getting that money each month. It's just a clarification of ordinance 627. Are there any questions about that? If not, is there a motion to approve ordinance 627? And I said that wrong, I apologize. It's not to clarify 627, it's to clarify our previous ordinance. Which I cannot think of the number right now.
Motion to approve ordinance 627.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll be doing a roll call.
Alderman Mitchell,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Alderman Parchman,
Yes.
Alderman Warren,
Yes.
Alderman Gooden,
Yes.
Alderman Parsons.
All right, up next is, ordinance 626, which is the ordinance adopted for the purpose of amending the City of Erin, Tennessee municipal zoning ordinance regulating development within the corporate limits of Erin. This is for the flood. This is to be in compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program, so that people can get flood insurance when they're located in the city limits if they choose to. Flood insurance is not normally provided on your policy, it is something additional. And it also helps us be in compliance if there is a disaster or something, so that we could get funding and that, things like that if we needed it. Are there any questions about that ordinance? And if not, is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
Make a motion to approve ordinance.
I'm sorry.
All right, we have a motion to approve ordinance 626. We also have a second.
Alderman Mitchell,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Alderman Parchman,
Yes.
Alderman Warren,
Yes.
Alderman Gooden,
Yes.
Alderman Parsons.
Yes.
That motion carries. We will be having a public hearing prior to our next regular meeting for ordinance number 626 and ordinance number 627. Up next is to approve the Erin Police Department section 303.01 roll-on authority. We have Chief Moore here if you have any questions you'd like to ask.
make a motion to approve the hearing of ordinance section 3.0.
And this will also be done by ordinance, I'm sorry, I didn't mention that, it doesn't say it here, but it does affect what you're saying, but it will be done by ordinance. So I guess it will be ordinance 6.8. I apologize, but anyway. Okay, we do have a motion and we have a second by Mr. Goode.
Yes.
Alderman Mitchum,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Lagan,
Yes.
Alderman Maggot.
Yes.
Alderman Parchman,
Yes.
Alderman Warren,
Yes.
Alderman Gooden,
Yes.
Alderman Carson.
Up next, as y'all are aware, we are in need of a new police vehicle. We do have the money from the drug fund and the insurance, payoff. We got Chief Moore here, if y'all have any questions.
Motion to approve purchase of new vehicle.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Alderman Mitchum,
Yes.
Alderman Moore,
Yes.
Alderman Lagan.
Yes.
Alderman Maggot.
Yes.
Alderman Parchman.
Yes.
Alderman Warren,
Yes.
Alderman Gooden,
Yes.
Alderman Carson.
Yes,
Motion carries. Up next, we have Chief Moore. Would you like to provide us with a police report?
For the month of September, the police department, entered a total of 335 calls for service, issued 43 citations, made 30 arrests. Those are 8 driving over the road, 1 domestic assault, 1 aggravated domestic assault, public intoxication, violation of order of protection, 2 vandalism, and reckless driving. 6 possession of drug paraphernalia, 1 unlawful carry of weapon, 1 peddling evidence, 1 felony evading arrest, 1 misdemeanor evading arrest, 1 resisting arrest, 2 simple possession of marijuana, 1 simple possession of methamphetamine, and 1 possession of schedule 2 drugs. We worked 4 accidents, 1 of those was injuries. And on the first, us, the sheriff's office, our community corrections, PHP, PBI, 23rd Task Force, and Stewart County, all, we tried to do around, Halloween, sex offender checks, violence checks, probation checks, more service, and more traffic.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions for Chief Moore? The fire report is next. Chief Warren is fulfilling his duty as county commissioner tonight, so he's not here. We'll be coming there. So you have a letter here. It says for the month of September 2020, your fire department responded to 2 wrecks, 1 residential structure fire, 1 natural gas leak, 1 reported smoke, 1 vehicle fire, 1 municipal burn permit was issued. Training topic for the month was motor pump operator. Our engineers completed 16 hours of training each. On Patriots Day, Ladder 1 crew displayed the American flag in remembrance of the Alliance lost September 11, 2001. Which 343 firefighters, 71 police officers, 55 military personnel, and 2,135 civilians perished in the initial attacks that day. The number continues to grow as rescuers at the World Trade Center continue to perish due to the illness incurred in the aftermath. October is Fire Prevention Month. This year's topic is kitchen safety. We have been working with educational institutions throughout our community to deliver fire prevention education to our youth via Zoom. As always, check smoke alarms monthly and change your batteries when you change your clocks, which that is very good, because sometimes we forget that actually the last day of this month is when you will be turning your clock back. Unfortunately, and I made the time change myself yesterday.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I got Rick back from my cabin.
I wasn't gonna leave him out, I was almost gonna miss him at towards the end, but go ahead, but you know what?
I'm glad to have him back.
And I'm sure he did something I couldn't do, because I would have never made it. I don't think. Before we leave, on your front of your agenda, there are several things on the, that are going to be happening this month. Just kind of keep those in mind. We appreciate you coming out. Is there a motion to adjourn? We're all in favor. I do appreciate y'all coming out.
Let me just announce Rotary